Hi, and welcome to the writer's commentary for DC Comics Batman Beyond Unlimited. Today we'll be talking about material printed in the 14th issue of the comic book Batman Beyond Unlimited. I'm Adam Beechin, I'm the writer. Peter Nguyen is our guest artist for this issue. Andrew Elder, our colorist, Saida Tamafonte, our letterer, and Alex Antone, our editor. The cover was by my old collaborator, Ryan Benjamin. Nice to have him back. Ryan drew the Hush miniseries that returned Batman Beyond to DC Comics and did a nice job here. Originally, there was some copy on the cover that said Dana's story. I'm not a big fan of cover copy to begin with, some of you may know, but Alex Antone and I agreed that Dana's story maybe wasn't the best and most dynamic cover copy for this, so we decided to change it to Secrets and Lies to be a little more exciting to someone maybe just picking the issue up off the stands. Before we get into the commentary in full on this issue, I want to address an announcement that was made at WonderCon this year, that I am no longer the writer of Batman Beyond Unlimited following the next storyline in the book, which is the Undercloud storyline. That is true. I will no longer be the writer. Kyle Higgins is coming in to write the book. He's a terrific writer, and I'm sure the characters will be in great hands. But I'll be moving on to other projects. I will continue to be working with DC on stuff that I can't talk about yet, but as soon as I can, you'll know about it, whether on Facebook or on Twitter if you follow me there. But it's been a great run. I'm going to save all my emotional farewells until we get a little closer to the end, and then I'll have a lot of people to thank. So right now, let's just get to the matter at hand, which is the spotlight story on Dana that takes place this issue. Throughout my run on Batman Beyond Unlimited, we have set aside stories between story arcs as spotlight stories on characters in the book. Gives us a chance to catch our breath a little bit, explore some of the characters we wouldn't normally get a chance to explore, and also serve as a jumping on point, hopefully, for new readers. And that's what this is here. This is Dana's story. Dana's a character that I've been fascinated with for a long time and felt hasn't really been explored as much as I would have liked to. So the goal here was to give her a little more depth, give the reader a little more sense of who she is as a person and why she's important in this universe. Peter Nguyen steps in as guest artist this month. I think I mentioned that earlier. Just giving Norm a break. Norm is still with us, and Peter does a fine job with this issue. He's a terrific artist. Had to work with him a little bit to ask him to make the characters look a bit younger than he had initially drawn them. I think they looked a little bit too adult, but he toned it back pretty nice here. And we start off with a nice shot of Dana dancing. When I think of the opening credits to the animated series, the one shot that always sticks in my head is the shot of the dancing people. I don't know why, but it always seemed like music and dance was intended to be part of the backdrop of the series from the very start. So it made sense to me that Dana would have some affinity for music, and I wanted to bring that out here as sort of the underpinnings of the story about her that we're going to tell. Peter and Andy, our colorist, who really is the MVP of this issue in my book, do a nice job of taking us from the bright colors and elation of the first page to the more cool and quiet and subdued atmosphere of the second page, where we find Dana in the hospital with her family post 10,000 Clowns, the big storyline that wrapped up with our last issue. Wanted to get a sense of the chaos and craziness that's going on in the hospital right after all the events with the Joker King. This takes place very shortly after the end of the previous issue. So the last panel was meant to really show the hospital staff in full flight, taking care of people and running around and doing a whole bunch of stuff. There wasn't enough space really to do that, but I think there's enough going on in the panel that you get the sense that this is a crisis period and that hospital personnel are responding as best as they can. This is a hospital quiet room, and if you've never seen one before, I hope you never do. They're about the saddest places in a hospital, and I worked in one for a couple of years. But it's where family members are taken to wait for news about somebody who's been grievously injured or to be told about the death of a family member. And that's what's happening here. This is Dana's family in a quiet room with Terry and his family. Ordinarily, there wouldn't be the shades would not be pulled up like this to reveal the disastrous scene outside. The shades would be pulled closed so the family could be alone with their thoughts. But we wanted to make sure that we conveyed to the reader that all the wreckage and damage that had been done by the Jokers was still going on while this was taking place. The copy is Dana's interior thoughts, getting into how she feels about what her brother has done. It's not something that I've seen a lot in comics, that in the wake of a supervillain doing something horrible, we find out about the other people in that supervillain's life and how they feel about his or her actions. If Lex Luthor had a brother, and he probably has at some point, if Lex does something that destroys the city, how does the brother deal with that? How does he feel about what Lex does to the family name, and what are his feelings towards his brother? So Dana is dealing with a lot of that here in this issue. She's dealing with the fact that her brother has killed a lot of people. Somebody in her family did that. It's a terrible thing to have to live with and sort through, and Dana's going to make some life changes as a result of it. Caught a tiny bit of flack here for mentioning No Man's Land, a storyline from Batman comics in the mainstream DC universe from a number of years ago, and how that would fit into the continuity of Batman Beyond. Dropping in stuff from Batman's history is something we've always done in Batman Beyond Unlimited. It's one of the fun things about the book, I think. And as far as the continuity of it goes, again, this is a possible future for Batman, not necessarily the future for Batman. So who knows what No Man's Land meant in the history of this continuity. It may have been the same thing. It may have been an approximation of the same thing. It may have been something completely different. But in any case, it's fun to drop the name, and hopefully longtime readers of Batman picked up on that and got a bit of a smile out of it. In these panels, we're getting to the heart of Dana's, I guess, survivor guilt is probably the best term for it. I don't know, maybe there's another term for it, where she's trying to figure out exactly how somebody like her brother Doug could have come to exist in her family. And the weird feeling of it all is that she still has love for her brother, even though he's done all of these horrible things. And so does her mother. The hardest part is making sense out of all of it. What Dana's mom is signing here, and we'll find out later, is an organ donation form, consent form for the Joker King, who died of head trauma in the last issue. So all of his other organs remain viable for transplant. And that's going to come into play, of course, towards the end of this issue. Here's where colorist Andy Elder really earned his meager pay for the issue. Peter Nguyen did exactly what the script said, which was to draw Terry all bandaged up from his conflict with the Joker King in previous issues. But when we got the art back, he just didn't look quite banged up enough to me. So Andy and I talked about it, and Andy added some great bruising to Terry's face and some stitches, and really looked like he'd been through a heck of a battle, which he has. We wanted to really show the physical toll that dealing with the Joker King had taken out on him. This is kind of an unusual panel in that it's a large panel with not a whole lot going on and a lot of space in it. This is the top of page 11 of the story, and if you follow our book, you know that we come out online digitally in 10-page chapters. And so for print, we don't know sometimes if it's going to be a 10-page chapter that's going to see print in a month, or all 20 pages of a full, what would be a full issue. In this issue, we happen to have 20 pages of content. So at the top of page 11, where you would normally have the chapter beginning with title and with credits, where you would need space for all that, here you just have Terry making his big declaration of what he really hopes is what's going on with Dana, although he has it in the back of his mind that she's onto him and she knows his secret, which of course we're going to find out she does. I want to apologize publicly to Peter for getting the chance to draw the one story that we've done in a long time that didn't really feature Batman, except for a couple of appearances and flashbacks. So here's one of them, and I think Peter did a great job of drawing Batman, and wanted to make sure that you all appreciated it as much as I do. Dana's been portrayed often, at least to my mind, as a pretty typical comic book girlfriend, in that when there's a crisis, she's left behind when her boyfriend mysteriously disappears, only to reappear after the crisis is over with some lame excuse that she buys, and they stay together. Well, we know from the animated series that Dana does eventually find out that Terry is Batman, so showing him scrambling and trying to find an excuse as he's already done this issue is sort of played out. Going forward, it's more interesting to me, and it makes Dana a much more interesting character, if she knows his dual identity, and he knows that she knows. I haven't seen as much of that. So hopefully, along with her interior monologue in this issue, we're showing greater intelligence and depth for Dana. Bruce, of course, here on what he thinks is his deathbed, is still a step ahead of everyone and knows exactly what she's going to say. What I like about Dana on this page is that she's not intimidated at all by Bruce Wayne, and comes right out and presents her methodology and reasoning for making the assumption that Terry is Batman, which is perfectly logical, makes a lot of sense, and is hard to refute. And then she even turns the tables on Bruce a little bit by telling him that she's traced her line of reasoning back even further and found out some stuff about him. So she surprised both Terry and Bruce, I think, in this scene. I know it seems a little odd that Bruce would so readily admit to everything that Dana has said, but again, Bruce thinks he's dying here, and I think his thoughts at this moment are with Terry and Terry's future going forward as Batman and what he's going to need as Batman going forward. And I think he thinks it might be a good idea that somebody knows who he really is, somebody that he trusts, that that person could be valuable to him going forward in life. So this then becomes how Dana is going to, in her mind, help atone at least a little bit for what her brother has done. She doesn't want anything special. She doesn't want superpowers. She doesn't want to blackmail Terry and Bruce. She just wants to let them know that she knows and that she's willing to help however she can. She just doesn't want to have any more secrets in her life. She doesn't want to have any more mysteries. She just wants things to be upfront, out there, and in a place where she can deal with them as they come along. I think that's very realistic, and I think it shows her to be pretty level-headed and smart and worthy of Terry as a love interest. Bruce has spent a lot of our run on the book in his own way, looking back on the past and what he feels are the mistakes that he made there and trying to rectify them, whether it's mending fences with other members of his supporting cast or putting Terry in a place where he can go forward as Batman and succeed. And I think that's why he doesn't really hesitate here with Dana. Um, Bruce, I think, at this point in his life, in our telling of his character, feels like maybe he went it alone a little bit too much, and that if he had had others that he had let get closer to him, maybe he would have been happier and even more successful in his job as Batman. Once again, Bruce is a step ahead when it comes to having information. The mind stays sharp even if the body fails. So here's the reveal of the issue that Bruce is going to be getting a new liver, and it's coming from a Joker. So symbolically, at least, one of his greatest enemies, and there's some irony in that. It's also the only way I could think of to leave a little bit of a door open for a possible Joker King return. In this future, as the animated series has shown us, there's gene splicing and there's some cloning. And so with a little bit of the Joker King's tissue still out there, there's still at least a slim possibility that he could return someday. So here on the last page, we reveal that Dana's conversations with her parents earlier in the book were to convince them to agree to donate Doug's organs for transplant. And I like to think that in the fourth panel of this page, when she's kissing Terry, the look on Terry's face is him realizing, maybe for the first time, just how cool Dana is, how smart she is, how she complements him, how she is the strengths to his weaknesses in his life, and how important she can really be to him. So that when he says, "I love you too," in the last panel, he really, really means it. And that closes out the story of 10,000 Clowns for real. And next issue, we can start getting into the mystery of where Maxine Gibson is with the Undercloud storyline. And we hope you'll stick around for Undercloud, which, as we mentioned at the top, will be our last storyline on the comic. It's a lot of fun, got some good twists and turns, introduces some new faces, and specifically new faces to the Batman Beyond animated universe. So hopefully you'll have some fun with that. We had a lot of fun putting the story together. Until then, if you have any questions about the comic book, about our process, about comics in general, you can send them to batmanbeyondcommentary@gmail.com. I do my best to answer every question personally, and we hope to hear from you. We love to hear from you. Thanks for supporting the book, thanks for watching these commentaries, and thanks for reading comics. We'll see you next time.